In this third and final part of Lab 4, you're going to use Node-RED to create a rich web application. If you go back to our original web application Hello World, you'll see there was a lot of JavaScript embedded in a template function. If you look at the PDF, we need to go to a GitHub repo with some HTML, with an HTML project. So let's open that up. And this is just a simple HTML project with style sheets, browser-side JavaScript, and a HTML file. The HTML file is this one here. And we're going to create a URL for that. So this is the raw URL that fetches that HTML file. So we're now going to construct a new flow. We're going to call this Watson TV because that's what it's going to end up as. And we need some HTTP nodes, an HTTP input node, an HTTP request node, and an HTTP response node. The input node is a get for the URL telly. The request is for our raw HTML file from GitHub. Let's wire these up. There is one more thing we need to do. We need to set the content type, but I'll show you why you need to set the content type. So let's grab this Node-RED URL, go to the telly, and when we invoke it, the HTML comes through, and that's all we're displaying. So we need to set the header content type. So we need a function and put it in between the HTTP request and the HTTP out. And let's edit this function in which we set message.header to an object, and the only value in the object is content type, which we'll set to text HTML. Now when we deploy this, the header is set appropriately such that the browser will interpret this as an HTML file and display it. And there we are, we have a rich user interface that allows us to reuse JavaScript and style sheets. So let's have a look at the application that Watson TV uses. So let's grab the URL and open a browser page on it. Here we are, the video captioning application. And we're now going to use a technique which allows us to save and reproduce flows. So we're going to use the translation JSON. So we click on that. We click on raw. We can copy this flow into the clipboard. And when we flip back over to our Node-RED flow, we can import from the clipboard. So we paste what we've got in the clipboard and then click on import, and that flow we can now incorporate straight into our application. So let's take a closer look at this flow. The top part, the get TV, is the equivalent to our get telly. It's essentially the same thing. The next part, get translation, just sets the payload to the global value for translation, and we'll see how that's used shortly. So let's grab a debug node. We'll just add that into this middle flow. We'll output message.payload because this is what this flow is setting, and just give this a name so we can identify it when the application is running. Let's wire the debug node in. Now the bottom part of the flow is invoked by the application when a translation is requested. So for now we're going to break the link that actually does the translations, and this is setting the URL to the payload. We just output the payload, which is going to be the URL. We'll see what URL is being sent. So let's try this out. We click on translation because this is what we want, and then we click on load for that URL, which is a video stream. And you'll see translation is requested for this video stream. but the slash translation is coming up with an undefined, or the response is undefined. Yeah, so the slash translation is being invoked every few seconds by the JavaScript running on the browser. So it's requesting the next bit of translation. Give me the next bit of translation. And because we've disabled the translation, nothing is set. So let's just refresh this page to stop the browser sending the requests, and we'll wire the translation back in. So this first part converts media type to media type. What it will be doing is converting the video stream into an audio stream. The second part detects silences. And then we use those silences to build up an array. So we're spotting where the silences are, and we're building message.times as an array, and we're pushing a silence position. And the final part splits the audio based on message.times, so which should correspond to our silences. And then for each push, each split, we translate, and the transcription is put onto the global parameter. Let's have a look at the function. We're getting the global valuable translation. We're setting translation to the new translation, which is what this get for translation is actually fetching. So the client, the browser side client, is actually periodically getting that field. This translation is the old node, so we need the new one because that's what we've bound in. So let's look for the translator node. Well, let's add this into our flow in the same position. And we'll set the translation from English to Spanish. We can deploy our application and now ready to test it out. So we click on translation, click on load, and we can see the requests as they stream through. So again, we have the URL, and while the translation is happening, we're getting undefined, and as soon as the first translation is done, we can see the translation, which starts at 0 and ends at 17.4 seconds. And the second one, which starts at 17.4 and ends at 28.87. And the third one, starting at 28.87, finishing at 37.5. Let's have a look at the application. We need to maximize it to see the translation, transcription. And there you are. You've created a rich web user interface reusing style sheets and browser-side JavaScript techniques that you can use to create your own rich web applications using Node-RED.